If you are new to our channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Garden Radio Show with your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Some people think that gardening only happens between Memorial Day and Labor Day, and that's really not the case. If you really want to produce a lot in your backyard, whether you have a large spot or a small spot, you can do spring planting as well as you can do fall planting. And we're going to talk about fall planting, which means you can grow those cool weather crops both ends of the spectrum of the year. Here in Wisconsin, we are not fortunate enough to be able to grow year-round like some of the southern areas are with the cool weather crops. So we always refer to in gardening as the average last frost and average first frost. And explain that. Yeah.
Sure. So the average last frost is based on basically 10 years of data on each last frost date that we've had for depending on the area.
Usually here in Milwaukee occur in about April
15th, around mid-April. So, and obviously that can vary, but that's kind of what you go by as a gardener. Now, the average first frost date is typically through the 10th or 20th of October. And so if you back off from that 60 to 70 days, that's when you ideally want to start thinking about your fall crops.
And that's where we're at right now. A couple of years ago, the first average frost didn't occur in our garden until November the 18th.
Right. So
which is a rarity.
It is a rarity, and it can obviously vary, but so that's why we're talking about fall planting now. You're like, it's going to be 90 degrees today. Why are you talking about fall planting? It's because it's time to think about that. And if you have a situation where maybe you there's something that you want to grow in the spring that's a cool weather crop, but you don't do well with it, try it in the fall.
Turnips and rutabagas for us.
Turnips and rutabagas for us. We don't do well with those in the spring. We do great with those in the fall. So that's another opportunity for you to extend your gardening time and try different things as well.
The advantage for growing these cool weather crops in the fall is in the spring when we plant them, they go to bolt or they go to seed, they put that flower pot on when the days get long and the days get warm. They're day length sensitive, which means that that at that point when the days get in a certain length, their growth cycle is over. Their natural premise is to reproduce seeds and be done, and that's it. With the fall planting, the days are getting shorter, so it's working for our advantage. These plants like the cooler nights, the shorter day lengths, and they produce better, and even in some cases, more flavorful production of the items in which we're growing. So we're going to go over several of these cool weather crops. Now, like Holly said, we're 60 to 70 days out here in Milwaukee on that first frost, average frost.
We're a little bit, we're between 60 and 70 at this point.
So growing more cucumbers or peppers or corn, and no need to put that in the ground. It's not going to make it.
But we did put some potatoes in last week.
We did put some potatoes.
So you can do some summery crops. It's not a problem. There's people who probably would put tomatoes in, too, if it's like a determinate type tomato, something that's going to grow quickly.
Right. And we put potatoes in the ground simply because we had left over. And we had them left over, and my grandfather always says things grow better in the ground than in a bag in the shed. Well, even if it's may not make it to maturity, we can still get tiny or baby potatoes off of those plants. If they get to a growth cycle and then they get frosting and they kill, we can still get something off the production of those potatoes.
Right. So cool weather crop one is your leafy greens like lettuce and spinach. Those are great cool weather crops. You can definitely...
You can do cabbage. You can just start these from direct sow. Put them right in the ground. You can get your Purple Cow potting mix and start them there and then transplant them over. But there's really not a big deal here. The soil is warm.
It's perfectly fine to start them in the ground. Radishes are definitely a cool weather crop. So
I would hold off on radishes for about another 30 days.
They only take about 30 days to grow. So you get a little bit of time on those. Especially, say, if you pull out some potatoes and you don't know what else to put in there, you can wait a few days or weeks or whatever and put some radishes in.
August 1st, the first week in August, we always drop our turnips and rutabagas in the ground. Turnips take 60 days, rutabagas take 90 days to reach maturity. And people often ask, well, there's different types of turnips and rutabagas, but what does one taste like? What does it taste like? What does a turnip or rutabaga reference taste like? It's like a potatoey, earthy taste, doesn't it?
Yeah, turnip and rutabaga, it's kind of like a potato, but not. It's got like
there's a little parsnip, little carrot, little...
Yeah, it's like an earthier potato.
And before you go plant any of these things, if you've never planted them before, go to the farmer's market, go to the Woodman's or Outpost or beans and barley, buy one or two of them and see if you even like them. Mm-hmm. Because there's no more disappointment than to grow something and spend time nursing it and harvest it, and then you make a meal of it, and then you realize, I don't like this. And you've committed all this time and effort and energy in order to grow this crop in which you thought you may have liked, but you realize you don't like. So turnips and rutabagas, you can harvest them at any time as the bulb develops, but it's better when you wait until that full maturity, and then you can get a bulb the size of a tennis ball or maybe in a baseball size. But you don't want to leave them in too long, otherwise they get woody on you, and they're very difficult to eat unless you like cooking for 9 or 12 hours.
And that's not what you want. But the nice thing about turnips and rutabagas is they are, if you're looking for, not a lot of people are eating low carbs, watching their carbs. They're good.
Rutabagas you can substitute for potatoes.
Right. It's definitely good alternatives for that.
Jerusalem artichokes is the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And then things like peas. Peas, I don't know. Have we ever had much success?
We have not personally had success with fall peas. We've had success great with spring peas, but not fall peas. Now, and my gardeners had great success with fall peas. Other individuals around the Midwest just have phenomenal success with fall peas. We just haven't had the success, and we're able to grow things successfully in our garden that other people aren't in the Milwaukee area. So it's a trade-off. You're not going to be 100% all the time you're going to have crop failures. Right,
and then there's beets. Beets are nice to grow in the fall. You can definitely start those this weekend. And direct sow.
Explain about the beets. The beets are a unique crop in which no matter what you do, you're going to have to thin them out.
So beet seeds are basically a clump of seeds. They're tiny seeds, but they grow in a clump. They're a cluster. And so when you plant them, you're basically planting more than one seed. And that's okay. That's just how it works. So once they start to sprout, what you want to do, you don't want to pull the seedling out. You just want to snip it. So say you have a sprout of like 3 little seedlings, you just pick the tallest one and snip the other 2.
Oh, they're edible. They're beet greens. You get them in salads at the store. But, yeah, otherwise you're going to have a cluster of beets, greens, if you let them grow to a mature state, but you're not going to have any bulb development. Carrots are another thing in which you can put in the ground. Now, I will caution you with the beets and the carrots. If you do not have very good tilth in your soil, you're not going to have very good root crops.
That's any root crop, really. But you definitely, so if you don't have nice, loose, loamy soil, you can grow these very successfully in raised beds and or containers.
Yeah, go to Blue Mel's, get some Purple Cow raised bed mix, get some 5-gallon buckets. They do really, really good in 5-gallon buckets, or if you have a large root maker grow bag or something of that nature, fill it up. That's the only time we've ever had success, and that's what we continue to practice, is putting these in containers. The beets, the onions, which onions we can't grow in the fall because they're a day-length sensitive item here. But I'm just referencing the root crops in which we grow that we strictly 100% grow in containers because of that loose tilth in that soil, that great compost, that nutrient-rich material that we are putting in the container and having the plants feed off of. There are other crops in which you can grow in the fall. These are just ones that we grow regularly in our garden. And the thing with the crops in the fall, kale's another one in which you can grow. Cabbage takes 75 days.
The nice thing about kale is that it's really hardy. So even if you get a frost,
Swiss chard as well.
Even if you get a frost, as long as it's not a super hard freeze, it's still going to keep going, and it's not going to get weird or wilty or anything like that. That one winter that we had, that it didn't get very super cold. I think it was like in 2011 or something. Our neighbor had planted some ornamental kale,
which is edible.
But it's definitely prettier than some other kales. And it just got huge, and it didn't get wilty or anything because we didn't get enough successful hard freezes.
So with that being said, if you think you're done gardening, don't worry about it. You can get these planted in now. Just keep them hydrated. Here's the thing. When they are young plants, they are more susceptible. It's just like a young child. You need to take care of it until they get more of a mature state. So be sure you can use mulch, water them, keep them regularly, keep an eye on them. Otherwise, a seedling that you put in the ground or grows is going to dry out much, much quicker no matter what type of method you're growing in, and you're going to lose it. So baby the plants, keep them watered so you can have a harvest in about 70 to 80 days. Thank you for checking out the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. For more, go to the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com for full-length in-studio video and podcast replay of Season 1. Season 2 underway and added weekly. Tweet us at TWVG Show or hashtag TWVG to be part of the program.